Welcome to the Leadership of Fools. It's a very special episode. The ship is up on dry dock and we've got a two-person crew just afloat in the dinghy to wrap up the year that was. It's a 2018 in review, would you say, Colin?
Well, in organisational life, people like to use the term retro these days.
Well, I would hate to be out of step with what's the current climate in what we like to think of as our lifeblood, the business world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're always tapping in and hoping that we can resonate their own feelings back to them in a way that they think is fun and exciting.
So you're just saying we need to just validate them?
Yeah, I mean, is that so wrong, Colin?
I don't think so.
No. And at the end of the year, we've reached out to all the shipsters out there and asked them what's resonated with them most loudly. And we've got a cavalcade of responses to enable us to put together the top 12 sort of 2018 leadership gifts, I guess you could call them.
You could call them leadership gifts, their lessons, their insights, their reflections, their musings. Gifts. Why not? Let's call them gifts.
Gee, the more I hear the word gifts, it sounds like we're saying gifs, like the GIF/GIF.
Yes.
The little moving. Everyone out there knows what I'm talking about. And it's hard to say the word gifts now without sounding like you're referring to a short little animated thing on your computer.
So with an emphasis on the T.
Yeah. So we call them presents.
Why not?
2018 leadership presents. The top 12 2018 leadership presents.
And I've just going to have to qualify right from the very start, especially if anyone's listened to our most recent episode, which is the top 10 reasons every organisation should have a podcast.
Yes.
You might recall that we didn't land with a top 10. It ended up being a top 9.
Yeah.
And I've got some news about today.
Uh-oh.
It's not
I've
12.
I've locked in top 12. I've locked in 12. I want it to be 12.
It's 14.
So we've not only exceeded expectations, we've more than exceeded. Like we've gone the whole hog. That's not even a baker's dozen. That's when a baker gets crazy. That's a crazy baker's dozen.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, the top 14. I don't know. Is there a top 14 anywhere that we can think of that would make any sense? That number 14?
No, never has there been a 14,
So
a list of
original.
14. Yeah. We are trailblazing right now, Colin. And so do you want to kick us off with one of these? Someone out there has reached out and given us what they thought was a pretty top-notch insight.
Let me kick it off. And in fact, just before kicking it off, this was a delightful exercise. So it's so appreciative of everyone who contributed, and it actually got me both inspired and every so often just a little emotional as we're going through this.
That's not the worst place to be at the end of the year, is it?
No.
It's a nice feeling. It's a
nice
warm
feeling.
feeling.
So number 1, Raquel Lemon.
Shout out Raquel Lemon.
Yes, absolutely. I've summed these up, so I hope I'm going to do them all justice.
You've colonised them.
Everything that you go through goes through you. It's all valuable. Nothing is for nothing. Interestingly, Rick Brown, I chose this one first because it's very, very philosophical. It's very...
You know how I love philosophy.
Absolutely. So I'm wondering if you can make your own sense of it.
I'm always
Everything that
pondering.
goes through you...
Everything you go through goes through you.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And it's all valuable, and nothing is for nothing.
Yeah, that's right. So basically, look, all experiences that you experience have an effect on you and change you, and for better or for worse, they're all a valuable life lesson. Either you learn something good, you learn something bad, you're changed in one way or the other. I mean, these are the sort of Zen philosophical principles that I could underpin a whole religion on, and I might just go do that now. But not until we finish this top 12. I'm never going to stop referring to it as a top 12 because in my mind that's what it is and always will be. It's top 12 plus 2.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And because this podcast is something we're going through and it's going through us.
I like it.
And we're going to be changed for the better/worst.
Raquel, this is a true gift, this one. And interestingly for me, the nothing is for nothing really, I don't know, it struck a chord for me. It just gives a sense that, as you've said, everything we do changes us, changes someone else, and it makes sense that it's worth doing.
Yeah, and it's an important thing to sort of play back into that business sense as well, because a lot of people get caught up and worrying about, this didn't go as well as we were hoping, or there was a certain level of failure on this project or whatever. And it's important to try to use that idea that even if it didn't go as well as we were hoping, what did we learn from that?
Right.
How can we drive forward?
Right.
How can we become Zen Buddhists?
Excellent. I love it. I love every moment of it. Number 2.
Yes.
John Eddy. What you think is crazy often makes perfect sense to the other person. So you might experience another's reaction, their behavior, their response is totally crazy, totally out there.
It's kind of the reverse of your obvious is someone else's genius,
Nice.
or it's a twist on that.
It is a twist.
Your crazy is someone else's sensible, is what they're basically saying.
I love it.
So while your obvious is someone else's genius, it's also good to remember your crazy is someone else's completely normal.
Rick Brown, as you speak, I'm writing so many notes. We're creating a new religion.
Yes.
We've got what have we just done then? We've reversed another
Yeah. Oh, look.
methodology.
Yeah, and there's a principle in improv that we say all the time when we're teaching or learning or both, and that quite simply is the opposite is also true. So whenever we're teaching something in improv, it's always important to remember that whatever we're teaching, the opposite is also true.
Nice.
And I feel like with a lot of these lessons, same. The opposite is also true. You're crazy, someone else is normal. Your normal is someone else's crazy.
I'm actually agreeing with you, and then I'm saying I don't know that I really understand what you're saying right now. Like I'm going.
It's 'cause I'm crazy.
The opposite is also true.
Yeah, in any lesson that you learn, the opposite is also true. This problem, I haven't tried to apply this to the world at large, Colin, because it's mainly a
I'll work
focus.
with you.
It's mainly a focus in the improv world.
Okay. So it's application to business and society.
But as we know, improv you can often apply to the greater world at large in a successful way. But the opposite is also true. Yeah. So let's see how we go if we just have that bubbling away in the back of our minds.
Thank you very much, John Eddy. Number 3, and this is from a person who I believe and understand had a second child, at least a second child this year.
Wow. Well, that's
and as a father was able to take 6 months off from work.
Shout out to paternity leave.
That's right. And a couple of great insights that start off almost about parenting and then translate into organisational life. So let's go with it.
Parenting is the greatest leadership challenge of all.
Yes, it is. I agree. How many kids do you have, Rick?
3.
3. I have 2. And
So I win. Ha ha.
That's right.
Sucked in, Colin.
And I think we're going to give a shout out to a couple of people at their school, because without coordinating this, and why would we and how could we, our children go to the same high school.
I know. What are the chances?
What are the chances?
No.
It's quite freaky.
In this wide world of ours?
Yeah, this is Dennis Novak and Marique Knight. And Dennis reveals that he's become more creative because logic doesn't work with a new baby. So he started to appreciate the power of a funny sound or a gentle kiss or a funny face. And for someone in organisational life, that's not necessarily coming from a place of logic, but it works.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, there's the scope for a whole spin-off series about leadership lessons learned from parenting a very small child is, I'm excited just by the thought of that.
Leadership of schools?
Oh, Colin, you are.
I'm sharp today.
You are. I don't know what's happened to you, but I like whatever vitamins you found. Sign me up. Okay. But yes, because it's true. Trying to apply normal logic to babies is folly, as countless generations of people have discovered through history. But then, what is the logic or the lack of logic, and what lessons can we learn from that? He's this person. Who was this?
Dennis.
Dennis. So Dennis is starting to see, the benefits of abandoning that logic and applying a whole new set of principles. I'm excited by the very notion.
Especially with every organisation seeking out innovation and creativity, he's onto something.
Yeah.
Absolutely onto something.
Yeah, because you've got to find creative ways.
And
creative solutions is what parenting is all about, really.
Yes.
Especially those youngsters. I mean, you can't go in there with a plan, really, with those babies.
No, that's exactly right.
You must be creative. Otherwise, you are going to be adrift in a sea of confusion.
And there's another layer to this, and that is both Dennis and Marique, who I think might be his partner.
Let's put them together.
Yes,
let's just assume they're
absolutely.
together,
And
even if they've
they're
never
not,
met. I don't care.
I think it's a match made in heaven.
They're
Talk
my-
a lot about equality in the workplace, and especially allowing all families to have the chance to spend time with their newborns or their children at critical stages in their development.
Is this part of? Is this?
Yeah.
Is this a new lesson or
It's a lesson that
this is part of the newborn baby?
this is my take on it. So
right.
I think Dennis has gone with the. What did I learn this year? I learned about fatherhood.
Yeah,
I
and
learned
creative
about
thinking.
parenthood.
Yeah.
Learned about creativity.
All right.
And if you want me to try and translate it to what it means for an organisation,
Yep.
Every organisation needs to go out of its way to continue to create an environment where parents can actually have the opportunity to truly parent.
Yes.
So
It is becoming front and center. That sort of the conversation around that, the work-life balance,
Absolutely.
allowing
And-
space.
And I suspect it's even probably stronger than that term. It's that sense of what difference does it make to, and I'm getting deep, very deep now.
Go deep.
But what difference does it make to society when we have parents able to not feel as stressed, get to connect and parent in the way without the pressures and the stress of work?
Yep.
And at the same time, what we kind of philosophically know about children and their critical stages of development and how vital a parent or a caregiver actually is.
Yeah.
And what difference that can make to workplaces and society.
Yeah, the happiness factor, the satisfaction guarantee. Yes, all of this plays in. People just are only scratching the surface of what satisfaction and happiness can imbue into a workplace, and allowing the setting outside of work to fuel that happiness is mind blowing for some people. Because a lot of time the focus has been on how can we make our workplace a happier environment. Like, well, what can we do? What systems can we put in place when you're at work
Yes.
to try to elevate your happiness and satisfaction levels? And then they've only started to realize, hang on, people spend a lot of time not at work. What can we do to allow, to foster happiness and satisfaction in those areas as well?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
And I just can't help it. I'm looking at you right now.
Yeah.
And you do have a very expressive face.
I do.
And I can now almost picture I don't know, maybe it's an online video tutorial
Yeah.
with a series of different faces that could work for newborns.
Oh, I could do that.
You could do that.
Oh, just a YouTube channel that's just my face doing different faces that you can stick your baby in front of. I'll do the parenting for you. I mean, imagine how much your happiness and satisfaction levels are going to lift when your baby spends, I don't know, roughly 10 to 16 hours a day watching my face. I mean, all the shipsters out there who've grown accustomed to my voice may not even know what I look like unless they've seen some of our
They
online
will.
content. But once my YouTube baby face pulling channel goes gangbusters, you'll know me.
I can tell it's the end of the year. I'll
The ideas are
refocus.
coming thick and fast.
It is.
We won't say no to any of them at this time
that's
of year.
right. So our gift with a T, or our present,
Yep.
is for number 4 is Andrew Pepper.
Andrew Pepper.
We know Andrew Pepper quite well.
we know the Pepper.
Sitting there in Sydney town as we speak, here in Melbourne
How'd
town.
he go with the floods?
Yeah,
I'm sure he survived. If not, I hope he lived a good life.
we hope. Now, Andrew gave me a call after the Me Too episode, and he said that a couple of things that was said in that particular episode got him reflecting and about his behaviour, especially at university.
Yep.
And that was triggered by something I'd said on that particular episode as well. So Andrew and I had a good debrief. It was actually, again, it's one of those conversations you don't usually have. It was open and reflective and honest.
That is the hope of some of these conversations that we're having on the podcast, is that it will trigger further conversations.
Yeah, so that was a really satisfying response. And Andrew emphasised here that his big insight for 2018 was the ability to adapt as leaders and become truly lifelong learners. And I suspect there's a lot of things that get in the way. I think we naturally are learners. The human race is amazing with how much its capacity to learn is, but there are a lot of things the older we get that tend to get in the way of us putting ourselves outside of our comfort zones and experiencing different things.
Indeed. There's distractions. There's advances in technology that bewilder us. There's just kind of, I don't know, we get a bit nappy, you know. We need to have more naps of an afternoon. These things cut into our learning time.
I love a nap.
I can go
love
a
a
nap.
nap.
Not now. I'm pretty energized right now, but I feel like 10 to 15 minutes
Are
from now.
you a nap guy?
Oh, I don't mind a little tiny little snooze. I never plan for one.
Right.
But every now and then you'll find yourself in a situation and you'll be like, oh, I reckon I could squeeze in a little 10-minute nappy time. Oh, and I get so excited by the notion that I can't sleep because I'm so excited that I found a 10-minute window for a little shut eye. It peps me up. So it's kind of, catch-22 in terms of nap time for me. I've got to teach myself to not get so excited by the concept, and then I'll be able to have a little snooze.
Let's pause that one right there. That's intriguing. Number 5, Roxanne Carr. Make it count. Well, you could almost sum it up. Make it count.
The end.
Don't hide behind decisions you've made yesterday or hold on to the past. And she emphasizes, especially in leadership, that there's a huge place for empathy and kindness. Rick Brown, what do you take out of that? Make it count.
I mean, there's a lot in there that she's throwing nuggets at us.
She is.
She can pretend that's one bit of learning, one bit of genius, but I think there's 3 or 4 takeaways.
There's almost a season of Leadership of Fools in
Too right. Make it count. I mean, that's almost a Nike slogan waiting to happen, isn't it?
Yep.
That's what you've always got to go in with that mindset. I'm sitting here right now. I could just be coasting during this podcast. I could have a snooze. You know how? Yeah, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna make it count. It's my one shot. I mean, it's not like we could redo it. That's not how podcasting works. We get one chance to make this work.
Chance, no matter how indifferent it is.
Yeah,
we'll put it out there.
So we've got to seize the moment. We've got to make it count. And that's And I guess being an improviser, and most of the stuff that I create only exists in the moment. So I'm always hoping. I'm always trying to make every idea count.
So let's take a side path around that, because I think that's very powerful, because it probably links, and I'll make a direct link. Mm-hmm. I think Rox is also talking about not holding too much onto the past.
Yeah.
And impro is perfectly suited for, it happens in the moment. It happens, in fact, you can't even revisit it.
Yeah.
You might talk about it, but you
never. I never mention it.
Never.
Oh, that show you did yesterday. I didn't do a show yesterday. I just completely block them. I'm allowed to block when I'm talking about improv, but not when I'm doing improv.
Not when you're doing it.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a question I've always been intrigued in? Having watched you perform with your colleagues, Spark, and having watched some of the stories that you create on the spot, I almost think, wow, you could create that into a series, or this. You could do more with that.
Yeah.
Does that ever frustrate you?
Sometimes, yeah. There are times where I think, some of these stories would be worth developing, and there are other improvisers or companies that do use improv to generate stories or sketch ideas.
Yep.
So it's not unheard of. It's just, I don't know. I've never focused too much on it, but yes, it is. Sometimes you do think, those characters, those stories, they were so magical in the moment. I wonder if they could exist outside of the moment and be developed further.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, something shiny catches my eye and I forget all about it.
So you are a true lesson for being in the moment.
And having a very short attention span.
Yes.
The recipe for success. Yes. Very short attention span.
So the last one, just as I close number 5 out with Roxanne, and the place for kindness in leadership, which, in 2018, a healthy dose of kindness won't go astray.
Yes, and that is, I guess, the ongoing transition from the stereotypical corporate culture of days gone by, the angry and the yelling and the tyrannical bosses keeping their workforce under control.
I think we're getting closer to eliminating it.
Yeah, by
I know
force
it's
if
still out
necessary.
there.
By
That's right. The irony.
kindness by force. We'll be kind.
Yes. Anyway, well, let's hold that. But I'm optimistic. Let me
Yes.
just say, I remain optimistic.
And just being on the road to a kinder future is satisfying in and of itself. Sometimes, just like at least we're trying.
Yes.
You know, I mean,
Yes.
we can't. That can't be all that we achieve. Hopefully, but we're on the path. A path we didn't even dare dream of when I didn't exist.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Now, Rick Brown, I suspect I might frustrate and disappoint you, as we might have been at the halfway mark.
Yeah.
Number 6.
Yeah.
But
Of
you
our
and
top
I
12.
both know that
Yeah.
that's not really the case.
Not in my mind. It's a top 12 list, as I've said. Top
Right.
12. Yeah. The other two are just they're bonus.
They're bonus.
They're epilogue.
Oh, nice. All right, that's the way we go.
What's
So
the-
we're hitting the halfway mark.
Yeah.
Ruth Young. Ruth, who also has been incredibly generous promoting a range of our episodes.
Oh, legend.
And particularly a massive fan of the imposter syndrome episode early on. It's
a bloody good
when we were in Brunswick recording that. Remember those days?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look how far we've come.
I know. We've travelled many a suburb in the ship, and each one more delightful than the last. Brunswick had its own charm. It's
did.
a bit of a rusty street cred, you know. I felt more at home probably in Brunswick than anyone, you or anyone who came onto the podcast.
that probably is true.
Yes.
That probably is true.
Yeah. I could have stayed there forever. Yes. It was just around the corner from my house, so that did help.
Ruth mentioned, in fact, she referred to a particular episode, which was the episode that kicked off season 2, the Everyday Sexism podcast, hosted by Amanda. In fact, I'm just drawing a very tenuous link here that the
yes,
two podcasts,
Amanda makes a much bigger impression on the
two podcasts
listening
that have
audience.
been referenced so far. Me too.
I've been hoping you wouldn't realise.
This
Every time I get invited
this
back.
pattern is actually starting to connect for me.
Damn it! I knew. This is why we should never have done a top 12.
No,
look
we should
back.
not have reflected.
I've been trying to.
There's no benefit in looking backwards.
I've been trying
Just
to
go
keep
forwards.
moving so that you didn't notice how much of a much better impact Amanda has than myself. Yes, because as I was saying, every time I get invited back, I'm surprised. I'm like, well, sure. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking, Colin, but I didn't want to bring it up because I quite enjoy doing the podcast.
So the
But
everyday
someone's
sexism.
got to do the workman-like episodes, the run-of-the-mill ones, so
Well,
that when Amanda
you're
comes
a
in, they
role
really
player.
pop. Yeah, I play my role.
You play your role.
Yeah.
And that's vital.
Yeah. Because if
team
Amanda was
player.
doing all of them, I mean, if every episode stands out, they all become beige. But if I do a bunch of just, Rick episodes, and then all of a sudden Amanda comes in, pa-pow, pa-boom, fireworks, everyone's like, how good was that episode? It stands out. You see? So in many
You've sold
ways,
me.
I'm
You've
vital.
sold me.
I'm vital to the process.
You absolutely sold me, and I'm convinced it's the way to go.
Thank you. Lock it in.
Everyday sexism, especially the comment from Tim Reed in that episode. And that was an episode with Tim Reed, who's the CEO of MYB, and Peggy O'Neill.
I didn't listen to it. If I'm not on it, I don't care.
You're not
No,
interested?
I'm not interested. I'm not interested. Just needs a bit more Rick. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
I start listening. I go, where's that Rick guy? Next.
Forget it. Peggy O'Neill, who's the Richmond Football Club president, and a comment that came out from Tim that said, when looking within organisations, and especially within teams in organisations, it's the question 50-50, if not, why not? So if it's not 50% representation male-female, or actually we understand in society it's more like 51-49. If it's not that, what's going on?
Yeah. If not, why not?
Yep. So that was quite provocative and powerful, especially for people like Ruth. And the emphasis on that particular podcast was about changing the system, not changing any individual, not equipping...
Again, I don't want to point it out, but if you'd gotten Amanda in, you'd have 50-50 right here, right now. The obvious is staring you in the face. I mean, you're making just...
I wonder now
inability
whether we
to-
actually continue. We've hit number 6, and it's probably making sense that I might... Do you have Amanda's number?
Give Amanda a call.
Yes.
Yeah, you can re-record any bits you like.
Well, she could take over from this point on
That's
to do
true.
the second half.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does make sense.
If not, why not?
Good point.
Yeah. To be fair, she wasn't available today.
The Me Too episode talked a lot about putting the mirror up. I think we've just put the mirror up on ourselves.
Yeah, have a good long hard look at yourself, Colin. These decisions you're making time and time again, they benefit me. I'm loving it. I'm having the time of my life. But what are you doing, Colin? What are you doing?
Oh, what
the
am I
shipsters
doing?
are telling
What
you
am I
loud and clear.
doing?
Everything is basically there's a subtle way of saying just get Amanda. I mean, she's the heart and soul of the podcast. Make better choices, Colin.
Shout out to Amanda Buckley, whose birthday it was the other day. And I don't know when people are listening to this, but it's her birthday every day.
Yeah, I mean, it may as well be.
That's how she lives her life.
Yeah, she does it. That's absolutely true what you just said there.
Number 7, Steve Price.
That sounds like a name I know.
Yes, although I don't think it is the name you're thinking
It's
of.
a common name.
Common name.
So many Steves, so many Prices.
But this Steve is a very unique, special, wonderful Steve.
Yeah.
So,
in a sea of
which they
run-of-the-mill
all are.
Steves.
Yes. So Steve Price mentions, in fact, he mentioned a number, almost there was a top 5. So I've chosen 2 somewhat randomly, but I suspect they were the 2 that did resonate for me. Play the game on your own terms and embrace the fear.
Oh, nice. I'm all about embracing the fear.
Yeah, tell me more.
Fear is that thing. It's coming up a lot. I've been listening to a lot of things lately, and that notion of fear being an important part. So rather than trying to expunge fear or ignore fear, it's actually how do you utilize the fear in a way that's going to benefit you the most? Because fear is it's a motivator, it's an energizer, and it is just fear is often a way of just preparing you to perform better.
Yes.
I think embracing fear and knowing how to use fear.
Well, it's a survival instinct.
Yeah.
It's
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight. Our body responding to those situations, and in the case of wanting to, I suppose, get extra performance or a lift in the day-to-day, almost like an Amanda peak.
Yeah. At Amanda levels of performance.
Amanda levels of performance. It makes sense that we embrace the fear. And if I just ground this to what it means for organisational life, having spent the last 10, 15 years in the space of learning and change, both of those things require people to be outside of their comfort zones, and that's when the fear kicks in. Not so much you're in your panic zone, which is where the true fight, flight response kicks in, but that ability to actually appreciate that outside of our comfort zones is where we're going to learn and grow most. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Steve.
You want the focused fear. You want a nicely cultivated fear garden as opposed to wild fear weeds. Choking you down. Yeah.
The fear garden.
You've got to cultivate your fear garden and not let the weeds of panic choke you down.
You know, it's almost time. Although I'm in 2 minds about this. The power of the audio, because then we can play theatre of the mind. Like instantly, the listeners are out there are now picturing their own imagery of the fear garden. But I also think maybe it's time. Video. We need video.
You want animation. You want sort of like what was that podcast? Oh, the Ricky Gervais podcast.
Right. Yes.
That used just animation, which just to provide a little extra colour to their podcast, and was very, very popular and effective. Maybe Leadership of Fools might. I don't want to say steal the idea, but it's effectively what I'm suggesting in a sort of copyright friendly way.
Yes. So a call out to the greatest illustrators in the world.
Yeah, all of them.
All of them?
Yeah, we want to create a quorum of illustrators to do our bidding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm. Put it on the list.
It's on the action to-do list. Number 8, Graham Plant. Graham Plant was...
In the fear garden.
Graham Plant was on another episode this year, and guess what, Rick Brown?
I'm guessing it was hosted by Amanda Buckley.
No, it was hosted by me.
Oh, jeez.
It was a one-on-one.
Another popular podcast that I wasn't involved in. Jeez,
Yeah.
They have done very well without me this season, I tell you.
Graham told an amazing story about having run the Marathon des Sables,
Oh, yes, of course.
the Marathon of the Sands, through the Sahara Desert.
Epic tales of epic runs.
Yeah, he's Graham's amazing.
I'm not suggesting he got the runs while he was doing a marathon. I'm just saying he went on an epic run. Although
epic run.
The tales I've heard of long-distance marathon runners, it would not be out of the question.
No, I don't
if that had
imagine
occurred.
it would
But,
be.
Far be it for me to lower the tone of the podcast to sewerage levels. So let us get back to lessons learned.
Lesson learned. So he was reminded of a previous manager, and I also suspect this manager is not the original source of this quote, but who used to always say there are three types of people. So, in fact, I might even see if you'll guess the third type once you've heard the first two.
Yeah, yep.
Number one, those who make things happen.
Those who make things happen.
Number two,
Doers.
those who watch things happen.
Spectators.
Yes. And three,
so those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who stop things from happening, or similar?
those who just say, what the fuck just happened?
Oh, no, I see.
Right. Yes.
That's classier.
That's classier.
Yeah. So there's the doers, there's the watchers, and there's the confused, the confused mob.
Yes. And apologies for what I just did to the mic then, which was
No, I love it. It adds a little bit of
my
character.
coffee cup.
Mate, who's to stop you? Hey?
No.
If Colin wants to smash his mug into a microphone, it's the end of the year. Let him do it.
And this is Netflix has the new comedy series, which is definitely not corporate friendly or child friendly.
Don't watch it.
It's called Mike Bumps.
Mike Bumps.
Yeah. So I laughed so much.
Okay.
So funny.
All right, so
So I
watch
just
it or
thought
don't
to
watch
myself,
it.
this is a coffee. No, anyway, don't go there. Busy. Graham Plant also said, being, what did I say? Busy. Graham
liked
Plant
it, though.
said, being busy doesn't always mean being productive and valuable.
No,
And,
but being busy does. So don't try not to be just busy. Try to be busy. That's the right kind of busy.
yes, Graham, I'm sure that was your point. Absolutely. But I do subscribe to that point.
Oh
There's so many people-
the glorification of being overworked is sort of had its time in the sun, and I think is probably reaching its downward trend now. People are starting to see through the facade of busyness for what it is.
In the mid-90s, and I'm old enough to be reflecting on the mid-90s.
Nice.
In the mid-90s, I worked on Wall Street in New York.
Wow, and that was probably, where was that in relation to the film Wall Street, like time-wise?
No, that came out in the 80s.
Yeah, right. So it was it was long past that.
Long
so
past
it wasn't
that.
in the height of everyone going Wall Street. Oh,
No.
cool.
I was absolutely, I suppose in terms of, you talk about a culture that kind of hits you in the face, especially its difference. And the fundamental difference was everyone to succeed needed to be at the office from perhaps 7:30 in the morning
Yep.
through to at least 6:30 at night. And yet I would wander around having not much to do and watching people having breakfast, reading the paper, and then making their phone calls at the end of the day. It was to be seen to be busy.
Yeah.
So
the busy, what was it? The busy illusion.
busy illusion.
Yeah.
Yep. So thank you, Graham Plant. My notes.
Come on, Colin.
Rick, could you describe
This is
my
like
notes?
this is like the Brunswick of notes here.
Number 9, Andrew Thomas,
AT.
AT. And it's interesting you said AT because his first one is ABC. And it's always be communicating. Yeah, so AT equals ABC.
AT loves the ABC.
It does.
Always be communicating, and you communicate with words which are made up of letters from the ABC. So it all ties in.
It does.
Always be communicating. I mean, I guess, caveat,
Yes.
effective communicating. Don't just be saying random words in people's faces just because you feel like you need to be communicating something to follow the the ABCs we're laying out.
That's a deeper insight. Thank you, Rick.
Always be effectively communicating.
And
Communicating something worthwhile or useful.
He's also built on it with BU, and he literally, again, it's just the letters, BU.
AT with the ABC and the BU.
I'm really liking it. Yeah. But the one he didn't use...
or did he go to Brigham Young University? Oh, that's BYU. That makes sense.
He used the full word, was be collaborative.
Oh, he just could not find a way to...
So it wasn't BC.
Because BC's already kind of taken by the calendar.
No, I don't know. Okay. And I've got to say this, Andrew... and I know Andrew, and there's a little side story. Andrew used to work at the National Australia Bank, and when I worked many, many years ago, and at the National Australia Bank, I also met Narissa, my wife. And
it's like the St. Elmo's Fire
yes,
gang, wasn't it? Just meeting, living their lives, being young and enthusiastic.
Yes, it was a true
you were the Brat
romantic
Pack.
Cauldron.
Yeah.
Yes, and Andrew Thomas, AT, as he's known, Andrew Thomas happened to be in Cairns at the same time that Narissa and I were on our honeymoon.
Oh, just accidentally.
Accidentally.
Oh, sure. You organised like a boys' weekend as well, didn't you, on your honeymoon? Classic Colin.
And it is slightly, and I've never really said this to AT, but it takes a podcast to actually
open up,
close the reflection,
to always be communicating.
It was that moment of I would have very happily had dinner, had a few drinks, but we were on our bloody honeymoon.
Yeah, not the time, AT, not the time.
Not the time.
Come on, AT.
So I do say my apology to AT that I didn't give you more when we ran into each other.
Well, I'm hoping bloody AT understands.
Yes.
I mean...
And I think I said Cairns. It wasn't even Cairns. It was Broome.
Oh.
Totally the other side of the country.
Jeez. You've gotten a lot of facts wrong on that one, and it was your honeymoon, so... but yes, he's covered some good stuff. Always be communicating. That's good. Be you. So that's about authenticity.
Yes.
We've covered that extensively.
Yes.
On the Leadership of Fools. We love the concept.
We do.
Authenticity is key. And be collaborative. I mean, why wouldn't you? Just teamwork makes the dream work.
Like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. No two ways about it.
We are at double digits now.
See how it just... When you're always communicating, you get through a lot of information quite quickly.
Louise Alfonso. Louise says... I like this one. In fact, I like them all.
Yeah, I was going to say, geez, you really put your foot in there. Oh, we finally got to a good one.
Louise said something, and I think what I meant, rather than I like it more than any other, it's something that I've continued to bump against in 2018, and that is people whose fundamental intent is good, but essentially they go about, especially as leaders, trying to save people and rescue people.
Yeah.
So they always see themselves as the fixer of the problems.
Samaritans.
They take it on.
Yep.
So she asks, and I think maybe this is a self-reflection, but also something she's noticed, the ability to not move into the saving mode or the rescuing mode, but instead the coaching mode, equipping people to do things for themselves.
Yeah.
Got
to teach them to fish.
Yes.
Stop giving them fish.
Which
we all know about fish.
You might remember the Murray cod episode.
Yeah. You just got to learn how to catch them. Someone's got to teach you.
Yes, right.
If I keep giving you Murray cod, what have you learnt, Colin? What have you learnt? And I'm spending an awful lot on Murray cod. Like, they're not cheap.
No, they're not cheap.
All right, my Murray cod budget is blown.
Yes,
I can't keep giving you cod.
What would they be a kilo of Murray cod?
It's prohibitively expensive. Right. Prohibitively. So it's time you went out there with your rod.
I've been enjoying them, but you're saying I'm not growing.
Get your cod rod. Right. Stop relying on me to provide. All right?
Okay.
That has resonated with me extensively.
Louise, who knew that this would be about the Murray cod?
You cut off, Colin. You cut off.
Yes. Thomas Varsovsky. Don't die wondering.
Oh, I thought it was just don't die. It's like that's a bold ambition.
I'm going to give Thomas some credit here.
Yeah.
Of everyone who submitted a contribution, he was the only one who used 3 words, sharp, to the point, no more context,
Yep.
no more depth.
Just
Just
like, here.
don't die wondering.
Don't die wondering.
Yep.
Don't die typing. That was his other motto. Like, I don't want to spend too long typing this out. Just 3 words. That's all I've got for you. Don't die wondering.
Don't die wondering.
Yes, that's it. I mean, that's all about, throw yourself in there. That resonates. You hold yourself back. That's it. Once you sort of start wrapping some of these life lessons in together, you're developing a dynamic package. If you're embracing the fear, so then you're not going to die wondering because you're throwing yourself in there, and you're teaching people to fish. You're always communicating.
You're in the fear
who's going to
garden.
stop you? Who's going to stop you?
No, who's going to stop you?
Not me.
No.
I'm not interested in stopping you.
No.
I've thrown away my stop sign. I used to use a stop sign all the time. To be fair, I was a lollipop man. I've thrown it away. A lot of kids got very injured. I'm no longer allowed to be a lollipop man. That's a valuable lesson. But I did not die wondering.
No.
Some of the kids did, but they were wondering why I didn't have a stop sign. And that's fair because by law, I should have had one. And I apologise to all of them.
Would that be your insight for the year?
Yes.
Yes. Number 12.
Ooh, the final one.
The final
insight on the top 12 insights from the Shipsters in 2018.
Yes.
Lock it in. This is where the list ends.
Yes. Yes, it does. And this one's a great one to end with as well.
Oh, good.
Because this is a
real
person you
exclamation
and I
point.
both know.
Ooh. Is it
and
me?
We know them through a slightly different lens.
Oh.
Yeah, you know this person as a performer.
Oh, yes.
And I know this person as a colleague consultant. So this person is Simon Dowling.
Oh, Simon Dowling, one of the funniest improvisers I've had the pleasure of working with. But I feel like the way you know him started to take over.
Really?
His
he's not-
interest.
He's not on stage as much?
No. When I first started out back in the day, probably back when you were on Wall Street, Colin, Simon Dowling was also on the scene. Me and him shared many a stage back in the 90s, early noughties. And then I guess the lens you see him through started to take priority, and he's just an occasional much welcomed guest. Whenever he shows up, we are giggling Gerties with excitement to see him.
Oh, that's fantastic. Simon is well, the lens I know him through, Simon is really well regarded as a keynote speaker. He's written a book, and the book does reference improvisation.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? Yeah. And in fact, and I think Simon does know this, but often I'm a replacement for Simon, or Simon is a replacement for me.
Ooh.
So out there in organisational world, particularly in this marketplace,
You're bitter rivals.
we're bitter rivals.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
I mean, we should point out.
He's my nemesis.
Yeah, we should point out to all the shipsters listening that he's not much chop. Simon Dowling. I mean,
He's a great improviser.
We've talked him up
Great
a lot.
improviser.
Oh, he was an adequate improviser.
Right.
And not.
But I think he should go back to improvisation.
The more we can encourage him to come back to the stage, I think the better the world will be, the happier he will be, and the more work for Colin. So let's just get a groundswell of
win-win.
support.
It's a win-win.
To encourage Simon Dowling to embrace that improviser that still thrives within him.
Still within.
But just
Still
needs
within.
more of an outlet. Come on, Simon, back to the stage.
And here's Simon's lesson, and I think it's particularly apt, okay, given what we've just said. Learn to ditch your script.
Yes. I mean, that is perfect. I don't even have a script.
No,
So I've got nothing to ditch.
you've never had a script.
So first of all, I've got
Never.
to go out and I've got to find a script. That could take a while. I don't even know where to start. Are there online script shops? Is that what you call them? Script shops? I wouldn't know. Never used them.
No.
Not going to start now, but I'll buy one to ditch it. Should I put it in a ditch? Is there a script ditch? Is there a script ditch that most people use? If I use my own script ditch, will people be mad at me? I've got a lot of questions around where to ditch my script once I find one, Colin.
Okay, these are the important questions.
Yeah. But it is, I mean, all jokes aside, I mean, it's a valuable lesson.
Yes.
We can all agree.
So to elaborate, learn to ditch your script, particularly what you think you're supposed to say and do, and instead look for what each moment needs.
Yes, and across the board, people are starting to value agility. It's sort of what's that word? It starts with an N. Nimble.
Being nimble,
Yeah,
yes.
yes, the nimble thought, and it ties back to parenting small babies. You need that creative thought for problem solving and for looking at things differently. And this is where, if you're going to adhere to the same old script, you're not going to be able to do any of those things. How are you going to pivot, baby? You can't, because the
you
script
can't
didn't say you could.
No, that's right. Rick Brown, your mastery of the corporate language, it improves every time we
Mate,
meet.
all the time I spent on the ship. Leadership of Fools has taught me more than I've ever taught anyone by being on Leadership of Fools.
So thank you to Simon.
Yes,
and,
Simon.
That's a great top 12.
That was an amazing top 12. But, if only there was a couple more. Wouldn't that be good?
Yes, wouldn't that be?
It's like bonus. It's just a bonus
Wow.
for all the loyal shipsters out there.
Oh my goodness.
What?
Guess what I've just found?
No.
A late entry.
This is
Two late entries.
It's like the season of giving has come early.
Yes, it has. And then these two people quite well known to the Leadership of Fools audience, Alice Sidhu and Colin Beattie.
Oh, long time shipmates.
Absolutely. So
I know,
Alice,
Colin Beattie, though, he's overrated. But Alice. Ho
shout out to Alice, who's currently in Malaysia. So
Just sourcing more exciting people to come onto the Leadership of Fools next season.
Absolutely. So she says, be comfortable with what you know and share it generously.
I always do, Alice.
Be comfortable with what you don't know. And this is where the learning and growth is. And value the capability of others. And you can do that most aptly by being curious.
Curiosity.
Nice.
Kills a lot of cats, but
It does.
has yet to kill any of us. We've shown an immunity to curiosity. It almost fuels us in many ways. Yes. And I also enjoy the fact that I know it kills cats. For some reason, I've never warmed to cats. So the more curious I am, the happier I get.
Dog person?
I don't mind dogs.
Favorite animal?
Favorite animal? Quokka. I mean, I'm not I'm not a monster. I mean, come on. Quokka all day.
I did not expect that response.
Well, then you don't know me at all, Colin.
No, I
You don't know me at all.
A quokka. That's gold.
But yeah, curiosity. That's, again, there's a premium being placed on curiosity, and rightly so.
Yes. So, and mine is the 14th and final, and it is all to do with this podcast.
Ooh.
And it is essentially the message, don't overplan. And I didn't go with the just do. I said just try. So don't overplan, just try.
That is the, I mean, I don't want to call you out. That is the opposite of what Yoda has been teaching children
Yes.
for years.
Don't try. Oh, yeah,
Do or do not.
Yes.
There is no try.
There is no try. So,
But you'd like to out Yoda.
I'd like
It's
to break that
only
myth.
try.
I'm a myth buster.
Never do not. Only try.
Only try.
And
Only try.
in that way, you'll be. That's something.
Well, I do respect what Yoda is saying.
Yeah.
And what
I think
I'm
he was
really,
drunk a lot of the time. To be
what
fair,
I'm pivoting towards is this idea that if I had have kept on planning this podcast, I probably.
You would have got a Mandarin a lot more because you would have been thinking things through clearly. So just taking this scattergun approach has really paid benefits for me.
Yes. I was going to say something different then.
Well, say it. Never let me stop you. Never.
Yes, if I was to plan this the way I would maybe normally have planned it, we still wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
And
sure.
instead, we've probably kicked over 25 episodes in 2018 alone.
Nugget-laden episodes.
Absolutely. What was that comment about being busy and versus being productive and valuable? So, so it's quantity and quality.
Yep.
And the reason I say don't just try is just turn on the record button and give it a try.
Yeah, and that ties in with the previous insight, don't die wondering.
Don't die wondering.
You know what I mean? Because
it's all coming full circle.
And the over planning or the wanting to safeguard against failure or know that you've figured everything out before you attempt something. You learn so much by doing
Yes.
don't you?
Yes.
That you're never going to be able to successfully plan it until you've done it.
Yes.
That's going to help you every step of the journey. Every episode you do, you learn something new.
Yes.
So yes, I fully support your endeavours. Your inability to see how much better Amanda is than me, I support wholeheartedly. And I will continue to do so until such time as you figure out what a fool I am. I mean, I guess I am the fool of Leadership of Fools in many ways.
That's right.
Without me, what are you? Just a leadership. Boo.
No, it's not quite the same. I am thrilled with Leadership of Fools. I'm so pumped that I and we gave it a go. It has been incredible. It's been one of those things where it doesn't matter how many people are listening. What matters is, at some level, the amount of goodwill, the amount of curiosity, the amount of, in fact, the classic in your obvious is your genius. Put 4 people together, put a question, a complicated question, a question that doesn't have easy answers, and allow the conversation to run. And I've always said to you, and I know the principles of impro play out beautifully in this.
Sure do.
It's not even like we host. It's just like it starts and then the conversation bounces off each other. It's been brilliant.
It's a bubbling cauldron of concepts.
Yes.
It's a concept cauldron that we keep the fire well stoked underneath.
Rick Brown, you've had too many today. There's almost actually too many. So the people have...
Well, now I'm imagining the podcast being animated like a Ricky Gervais. So I'm just trying to create as much imagery as I can so that when it does get animated, I'll be like, that does look good. That concept cauldron is very good.
The concept cauldron on the Garden of Fear with
the panic weeds.
The panic weeds, fantastic. So at this stage of our year of 2018, we've had 14 incredible insights. They connect with each other. They're inspiring, they're meaningful, and this is where the credits would typically run.
Well, let's run them.
I'm just going to go away from the mic for a bit if you want to just keep talking.
Yep. So we just want to basically give shout-outs to all the people who've contributed to this ramshackle ship of ours and kept it afloat. And so shall we start with the people who have played a very large part in empowering this ship of ours?
Yeah, so these are the people who are really behind the scenes, quite active in the production, construction.
Top-tier contributors.
Top-tier
Gold level. They've gone clear.
Amanda Buckley.
Yeah, I mean, we cannot speak highly enough of Amanda Buckley.
No,
Every day's her birthday, and when you're around her, you feel like it's your birthday. And I welcome the fact that she will most likely replace me in all my endeavours in the future.
Yes. And I might shout out the others we won't necessarily talk about every single person I'm about to mention.
Only Amanda Buckley.
Only Amanda Buckley. Alice Sidhu, Paul Menz, Nick Alicios, Nat Fian, and the team from Landra and Rogers who...
Crack unit of law aficionados.
Yes, who
Guns for hire.
helped us host the launch and continued to be a very great support to us.
They are the bee's knees.
That's right. So the next group of people...
The silver level members of the Leadership of Fools.
Oh, God, yes.
Frequent Sailors program.
I'm just going to attribute all of this to Rick. So these are people who...
That's called distancing yourself from responsibility.
Yes,
I like it.
Now, how do I deal with this dilemma, Rick? Because I'm about to shout out a lot of people, and I know that it's not going to be everyone. So,
I mean, look, all credits come with the caveat that there's too many people to cover everyone. If you feel like you deserved membership in our silver level Frequent Sailors program, then probably your application form is in the mail.
Yes.
Get it back to us as soon as possible.
Yes.
And no doubt we love you and we're thinking of you, and we apologise for neglecting to mention you at this stage.
So, note to self, 2019, we may need to redeem ourselves here.
Yeah.
These are the people that I've tended to notice have been very active in promoting to their colleagues and helping Leadership of Fools to stand out from the crowd of podcasts that are out there. So we were really appreciative. Davina Ross, Merrin Holland, Cassidy Carey, Isabel Smith, Ruth Young, Natasha Stojanovic, Gina McCartney, Leah Parkola, and Amy Kirkwood.
Just a crack unit of people working to help us be better.
Absolutely. We are really genuinely appreciative. And this final shout out.
The Bronze Medallion Club.
Bronze.
Yeah.
Bronze. So Rose Beattie.
Just squeezing all your family members in now, I
Beattie.
see, Colin.
Yes. And
rightly
the shout out there has been incredibly valuable contributors in the background. And at the same time, they were the ones who emphasised we must have a end of year podcast.
Mate, the kids know. The kids know what's what.
And this is again, I'm using that term shout out a lot. Big Gain All Brand.
These are the shout outs.
Gain All Brand is a YouTube channel.
Not a type of cereal.
No, it's not. Big Gain All Brand. And the team from Big Gain All Brand, Will, Seb, Tom, Oscar, Max, and Charlie.
Yeah. Big Gain All Brand.
Yes, lovely. We thank you for all your support.
Yes, we do it mainly for you.
Yes. In fact,
it's all
that's our only reason
It's
for
all
doing
I'm
it.
focusing on right now is you guys. So enjoy every last little morsel.
So we'll be back in 2019. We'll be back
Yeah.
bigger.
Yep,
Better.
I'll be driving Amanda in, picking her up when she's finished. We're all working together to make this a better podcast, and it will be. Because season 3, that's where things get really exciting. Season 3 of all TV shows, that's where you start getting,
That's the peak.
Yeah, all the relationships are set.
Before you jump the shark.
Yeah. That's more like season 5.
Right.
Season 3 and 4 are always good.
All right.
You know what I mean? This is where we hit our stride when we're no longer, trying to find our feet. We're firmly established and we're just going gangbusters.
Nice.
So come for a sail.
Excellent. Thank you, Rick.
Bye, Colin.